The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hello there, welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I am so excited to announce a new offering all about abundance. This feels very edgy for me, but it also feels really, really exciting. So I'm coming to you today from the Hudson Valley, New York, where I live, where it is raining, and it's been raining for, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 days straight. But it's spring, and it's just so green and lush after the winter, after all the trees losing their leaves, and now all the flowers are back, and the pollen count is high, and the bees are active, and it's really that time of year that truly feels like the beginning of the abundance season. And this program I'm going to talk about in today's episode was inspired many, many years ago. I've been thinking of running something like this for years. I've run a few workshops around abundance, and they've gone really, really well. And now that I'm not sure if you've been following me for a while, maybe you know this, but now that I've been deepening into my transformational neuro-linguistic programming that I've been studying for many years, but I've been deep diving into training for the last year or so, and really understanding what stops us as human beings from having everything we want in life. And this program, which, by the way, the running title so far is called Your Abundant Nature. I'm not sure if that will stick, but let's see. That's what I have so far. Originally, it was called Summer of Abundance, but I like Your Abundant Nature better. But for many years, maybe starting about 15 years ago or so, I started deep diving into what I believe to be a wound around money. And this program is not about money. It's about abundance. The one thing I'll say, though, is one of the benefits of being in the program, and something that you might experience in your reality, is more money coming in seemingly out of nowhere, easily and effortlessly. But I'm not going to make a claim that you're just going to make millions overnight. It's not about that in the end. What I've discovered on my really, really deep journey, and I'm trying to think what year I started it. I remember I was trying to raise money, I should say, for one of my last businesses. And that must have been in 2012. Actually, yeah. So I've been doing this since like 2011 or 2012, because that's when I started really diving into what was stopping me from really making my businesses a reality. So I had worked on a previous business, and then I wanted to start what was now my second business, and something was stopping me. And I realized, of course, it was the fear around money, being able to survive, having enough. And what's really weird is there's this problem in much of our society where we see this all around us. There's multimillionaires and billionaires who still feel like they don't have enough. And we're not going to dive into that in this program, but we're going to dive into what is that wounding? What is that deep core trauma, that trauma response that has someone believe that there's still not enough, and that you're still not enough? And not just, if you have lots of money, but also when you have no money, what is actually running at the core that is in the way from you receiving everything you want? And again, this program is not centered around money. It's centered around abundant energy, the frequency of abundance, the depth of what is stopping you from allowing in whatever it is you want. And that could just be community, connection, experiences, partnership, love, following your purpose, having more clients, doing more of what you want to be doing, being a leader, speaking on podcasts, being seen out there. Abundance comes in many forms. It's not just this receiving of tangible things or things that are connected to money, but where is it that you could actually be allowing in more and allowing in an experience in this one and only incarnation that you get that has you feeling like literally in your soma, in every cells, that you're living at a higher frequency, at a higher vibration, as many call it, but really like knowing that is, and not just knowing in your mind. This is not a mind-based program. This is actually a somatic, fully experiential program where you will start to feel differently, and then your entire reality starts to shift around you. And this might show up in the smallest ways and very often in some really big, very surprising and very rewarding ways. And not just rewarding as in tangible physical items or things, but really in that knowing that you can fully relax and trust into your experience as a human being who is incarnated here on earth. And to know that it is inherent in your nature to be abundant and to receive, and you don't have to do anything to receive what you want. But the more I've been diving into the science behind what is actually running in the non-conscious realms that stops people from having what they want, the more I'm realizing that, wow, it is very real. It is literally, it's programmed in us by nature to desire and receive. And that could be, I think of like ancient times where they didn't have to buy, I don't know, a car and fill their tank with gas and go to the grocery store. But like, what is it that our ancient ancestors were receiving? Well, they were receiving food. They were foraging from our beautiful planet Earth. They were living off the land. They were connecting in their village, in community. They were, probably experiencing love, because that's what literally makes the world go round. That's what makes us thrive as a species. And every animal, every plant, everything is grown through love. So the more I've done this work for so many years, I haven't even done the math. What is it? 13 years, 15 years? It's actually the frequency of love. And again, for those of you who want money, there's nothing wrong with that. And we're actually going to dive into this as well, into the shame and the taboo around money and the wounding and the programming that might be running beneath the show. And I can tell you right now, it probably is. Because what I've seen, and now that I've been doing these NLP sessions with clients and with random people who are now booking NLP sessions with me, and also the amount of work I've done with NLP to heal my, what I call my money wounds, which run really deep in my ancestry. And actually, I'll tell this story. So for those of you who can pick up on my last name, Weinstein, right? It's traditionally a Jewish last name. My father was raised Jewish, but actually kind of swore off Judaism when he was 13. He married my mom, who was Christian. And so I was actually raised Christian. And, we can say that there's these kind of generic associations with Judaism and money, right? Like the Jews and the money. But whether he's Jewish or not, it doesn't make a difference. It's my story, right? I was raised with so much trauma around money and scarcity and receiving, to the point where my whole childhood was like walking on eggshells for many reasons. Both of my parents were really running trauma responses filled with lots of anxiety and fear. But my dad, who had a job at a corporation his whole entire life, pretty much, not to say he was at the top or anything, but I think he was pretty, secure. Back then, it was like, you get a job, you work for a big corporation, and you just kind of stick with it until you retire. And, we had just a normal house in a normal part of America. Like nothing was extravagant, but we were definitely not suffering. But I was raised to believe that we were constantly on the verge of losing it all, bankruptcy, running out of money. There was so much weird programming going on where, at a very young age, I didn't really understand it. My mom used to buy us school clothes because we grew and, you need new school clothes once a year when you're growing. And she would make us hide it from our dad, don't tell your dad. And I'm like, looking back, it's like, so dad didn't want us to have clothes that fit us, was it really that bad? Why did she have to hide it? Then there was my dad. And so many stories around money. I mean, it was very, I can feel it right now, even talking about it. I can feel the tension and the contraction in my being, in my cells. And so when I became, I started to earn my own money as I got older, I noticed a lot of the patterns coming up in my reality. One of the core patterns that was shifting for me, or that was showing up for me, was earning money, but then losing it all. Meaning, I made pretty decent money in my kind of corporate career, but somehow I would just spend it all, or I would create something. And when I say create, this is happening on a not conscious level. I would have a situation that came up where somehow I would have to pay a lot of money for something, and I would seemingly lose all my savings. So I had a lot of trouble really holding on to money. And there was this program around deserving. And it was like the more money I made, the more it just kept running. And honestly, I started to notice that I had more money back when I was a kind of a broke teenager, when I was working part-time. How is that, right? 6 figures versus broke teenager working part-time for minimum wage. And so I really started deep diving into what was going on. And that's when I think I was then led to Neuro-Linguistic programming, which is what I've now been trained in, and done some amazing work with clients around money and receiving and worthiness and valuing oneself. But it runs so much deeper than that. It is something I've realized some of you probably understand this. It's running as a core wound in most of humanity. And I say most, meaning the people I've worked with in mostly the Western world. I have only hung out with, some people in indigenous and mestizo communities that are living a little more simpler lifestyle. But, the ways of capitalism have made it to pretty much the far reaches of everywhere on Earth. And, I can't speak for how it goes in those groups. I can only speak for, I live in the United States. Most of my clients are living kind of lives in the modern world. And what I've seen over the years is these deeper core wounds that are running around worthiness and imposter and feeling good enough. And, it's like no matter how much training you do, you're never worthy enough of receiving clients or helping someone, etc. And this is all tied into the frequency of abundance and scarcity. And what I've seen is the deeper the work you do in this non-conscious realm, and also embodiment work with nature, work with, your communities that are going through a similar thing, because we really have to do this healing work in relationship as we are relational beings. And when you're in a container of a group doing this kind of abundance work, doing this healing work, and also the expansion work, it actually creates what I call, it's like a vortex of energy where the results are expedited. And that's what we're going to be doing in this group program, Your Abundant Nature, or whatever it might be called. I've seen results happen seemingly overnight. I've experienced this myself with this work that I've done for many years, and it's sometimes feels unbelievable to the point where there's another layer of work where if you don't do the proper integration of allowing your soul's expansion in receiving and up-leveling, you'll hit what the Big Leap calls an upper limit, or you might hit a glass ceiling, or your identity will be so shaken to its core that you actually can't receive it in, and you'll bring yourself back to the baseline of where you were before. So it's actually really important to be doing this with a trained facilitator in a community to hold you in your soul expansion, to hold you in the expansion into the frequency of abundance and receiving. Because if the frequency is too much for your nervous system or too much for your current beliefs, they will be, like it's almost like they will be shaken too much to the core where you can't even allow it in. And this is how people do healing work and end up back at status quo over and over and over and over. And we see this very often in the plant medicine world, in the psychedelic therapy world, etc. And I know because I've been in this world a very, very long time, and I have been observing it. I've been working with people in it, and I've been in there myself as well. And what I've seen for many years is when you don't have the continuous support for an allotted amount of time that allows your identity to be held in a new identity, it will just go back to the status quo before. So then you might create abundance or receiving money, but then something, and a lot of this is happening on a not conscious realm you have zero awareness. And I'm trying to not use the word subconscious, but it's, you could call it subconscious or unconscious. My teachers call it non-conscious. There is a difference, and it actually makes more sense to say non-conscious. So this might happen where maybe something goes well in your business, or maybe you receive a lot of money, or you take some steps forward and, now clients are coming in, but then something comes in and like whacks you. And it's like, you grow and then and then you grow and expand some more. And this container is to help you and your body and your nervous system and your cells and your entire frequency to be able to shift and shift permanently, and then keep expanding from there beyond the boundaries of our container. And I'm really excited to do this. I'm going to offer it at a pretty low, fair cost. I would say, I don't know the word low, but a fair cost, because I want people to experience this. There have been some messages that have come through me for the last about 1.5 to 2 years that have come through very strongly around abundance. There was one that was actually 2.5 years ago. That was one of my most beautiful visions I've ever had and this one was during a ceremony, but a lot of these come through in meditation, when I'm out in the garden, when I'm walking. I get these, and very often in dreams, and I've been having this thing where I get a lot of kind of these lucid dream states where I just get downloads coming to me, like something comes through, sometimes in a visual vision, but very often just in an awareness. But a few years ago, there was an awareness, and I had what I would call very Lakshmi energy come through. And it just showed me this beautiful vision of, the language is very hard, but the realm of limitless abundance. And it was just beautiful. It was like the most ecstatic feeling you could have. I would describe it as orgasmic, or the feeling you might have when you're just in a peak experience, or, just your heart is so full. And I could see that this nature is accessible to us at all times. And the more I've been doing this deeper level embodiment work and the work on the non-conscious programs that are running beneath the show that are keeping me from having what it is that I want, the more I'm actually experiencing this ecstatic nature all the time. And not to say it's all the time, but it's way more often than I've ever experienced. And what I have noticed is life feels much more supportive when you're in this realm of really deep trusting that this is the nature of I am here to receive the full life experience that my soul desires, that I desire. And when you're doing this deeper work, you actually get to experience it. So I had that vision, and I'm not joking. That night, I checked my phone, even though I was in Peru in the middle of nowhere. Don't ask. There's one place I go that actually has cell service. And I don't know why. I checked my phone, and I saw that I was randomly upgraded to a lay flat first class seat from Lima to New York, which is a 7.5-7 hour flight, something like that. And by the way, it was on LATAM's like nicest airplane, which I've never been on since because I asked finally, and they've actually quit flying that particular airplane on that route. But anyways, I was like, and it showed a credit card number, you know, like, and I was like, that's not my card number. And so then I was like, did someone pay for me? What the heck? I asked a bunch of people. It was like nothing made sense. And then I found out later, randomly, out of the blue, for absolutely no reason, my credit card company just moved me to this lay flat first class seat. And I've had a lot of really big experiences in my life, huge manifestations, big bouts of abundance that are just almost like unexplainable and like flooring. Like they floor you with ecstatic energy and also like kind of like almost like a sickness. Like, whoa, do I really deserve this? You know, I've had this with large sums of money. I've had this with experiences of certain people just like gifting me something. Receiving, you know, when I was raising investor money, like, receiving in my first money, which by the way, he never even needed it paid back. It was like, oh, like I felt like I was going to throw up. But when I received this, it was like, what is this energy and how can we replicate this? This has nothing to do with the plant medicine ceremony, but this has to do with what is available at all times to all people, no matter what. Doesn't take medicine to do anything. So that's what's going to go on in this program. I'm going to bring in some really fun practices that have helped me throughout the years. There's going to be some, I want to just say one thing. This is going to be a fun, easy program. That's the air of it, is that it's summertime, at least here in America. If any Aussies join in, it's probably a slightly different frequency, but hey, you pretty much have summer year round there, right? But it's going to be just fun and lighthearted and enjoyable. This is not meant to be hard work. It's not going to be like, deep, dark shadow work, although we are going to take some trips into the not conscious realm, but it's only going to be there to be seen so that you can actually shift into the frequency of what it is you do want. So I really encourage you to keep an eye on my podcast and my email list. This is now the beginning of May. I should be able to announce this in about 2 weeks formally, but for now you can just sign up to my email list, get on the wait list so you can join us. And I really imagine a really good group of people in a community. And by the way, I will say this. I'm recording this right now in the middle of a grief ritual weekend that I'm going into later today, but I've been in a grief ritual training the last few days. And the one thing that came up that was so interesting was this notion of belonging and belongings, and how much our society is centered around trying to fill up that feeling of belonging with belongings. And this is where this message has come through for so many years about teaching abundance on such a deep level, so that you know that you belong here on earth, that you are incarnated here and you matter, and your voice matters, your energy matters, and you being here matters so much that you just get to be yourself and not worry about anything. And that is when the abundance comes in. And therefore, you actually don't need to center your life around acquiring belongings, because you deeply belong. You are inherently, by nature, here, and you belong. You belong in community. You belong with your unique medicine. Your voice belongs. And this is the irony of the work, is when you do this deep work and again, we're going to be doing some subconscious reprogramming work with transformational neuro-linguistic programming thrown in. We're going to be doing some fun, beautiful plant experiences and nature-based practices. There will be some plant medicine, and don't worry, it is optional to do any psychoactive plant medicines, but we're going to be working with some plants. And the irony is the more you do this work to belong here on earth, the more the abundance comes and the less you actually need. This is like the saying of like the rich get richer. And now I actually understand it. The rich get richer because they don't actually need it. It's like this weird paradox is that the less you desire and the more you actually have it inherently in your nature, the more it comes to you. And that's something that I want you to experience because it is just genuinely fun. It is, it raises your frequency. And what happens is it becomes like an energy that other people attract to. You then get to impact those around you and your communities and your friends and the world at large. And the message that I've gotten for a long time is that as the world changes, as we step into these new paradigms and other paradigms come crashing down, and we don't really know how that's going to happen. Of course, there's a lot of suspicion and people keep saying the same thing. So I believe that we are creating it as a collective where people are saying, oh yeah, things are just going to crash and fall apart. Well, okay, so what has been shown to me is as things change and fall apart, we actually need to move into more of this abundance frequency because that is the true currency. Like that is the currency that we are stepping into. This is the money. And, it's like the more you realize like, oh, I can just receive in money or I can receive in everything I need to not just survive, but thrive, the more it actually comes and it comes more and it comes more and it expands like just like nature. A lot of this might seem hard for you to understand or comprehend or even believe, but when you start experiencing this in this Your Abundant Nature program with me this summer, June, July, August, possibly a little bit of September. And don't worry, it's only going to be a couple calls a month, very easy and fun. But when you start to witness it in your reality and experience it, you just see more of it and you get to experience more of it and it expands and expands. This is, by the way, I'm a beekeeper. A lot of this was taught to me through bees. Just being with the bees, you realize like, wow, it is literally our job to expand and become abundant and create and receive and create and receive. It's this like never ending well of what is inherently in your nature, just like all the plants and the animals and the trees and the birds and the bees. So thank you for listening. I hope you'll join us in community, really to connect, belong, work with the plants, work with this energy of your abundant nature, raise your frequency, and also be able to share your unique medicine in the world in just a whole different way where you're going to see it's actually less work. You're not going to have to do anything other than, give some of these practices a try, show up to the calls, connect in community, and just receive and allow and have fun. This is going to be fun and exciting. And I am so excited for this. I'm telling you, when you have a program channel through you for years and you're finally bringing it to life on at the beginning of May in 2025, it just feels so good. And it's like, I'm doing this purely out of service. I know this program is worth thousands of dollars and it's not even going to be that much. So I'm just going to have fun with it. And I hope you'll join me. Again, feel free to sign up for one of my free gifts, subscribe to my emails, follow on Instagram, or just shoot me a direct message or an email if you want to learn more. Many blessings to you and have a beautiful week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.